Till the Groke Falls in Love, a story written and read by Adrian Onyando. Part 1, Chapter 1. Adventures on the Ancient Path. One lazy afternoon, as Prince Lion was about to take a nap under an acacia shade, a gust of wind came and scattered his beddings, which were dry leaves, green, red, pink and yellow colors merging into brown like the color of the savannah soil. "Away with you, nasty ghost," said Prince Lion angrily. He hated to be disturbed in his hideout, a place where he would lie and dream on soft leaves under a blue sky in the cool atmosphere of the shade. "Nobody, not even a fly, disturbs Prince Lion in his nap," he said, looking around to see whether the nasty ghost was still around. He would punish him with a quick slap by the paw. But the wind had died away, and the air was still and clear, humming an afternoon song which sounded like the buzzing of bees. Actually, he had learned this song from bees. Prince Lion gathered his beddings neatly at the foot of the acacia tree. "Good," he said, pleased with his beddings, now thick with layers upon layers of leaves and grass. He hummed his song once more until he felt his anger gone and drowsiness transport him to that mysterious secret land where he met friends that he had never met before. They were the majestic bears, smiling as they hunted in the snow, and the playful foxes, frolicking on the rocks. Then there were some other dog-like animals looking on from the mountains. For some reason, they looked quite unfriendly. They were howling horribly, coming down the mountain at him in his savannah hideout, and everything they touched, even the ground on which they trod, howled along with them in those peals of devilish sound. They were coming with the speed of lightning and were aiming at a target, and the target was him, the prince of the savannah. He had to do something. A lion must never be caught napping. Prince Lion woke up and sprang to his feet. Presently, his beddings were lifted into space and scattered. It was the wind again. Prince roared in anger. He stretched his full body and leapt into the air, charging. Then he recognized something. This was no ordinary wind. It was corn-like, whirling, tossing and making all sorts of patterns in the air with the very beddings it had stolen from him. It howled and whistled and then lifted itself higher and higher into the sky. It was Whirlwind the Wanderer. Within seconds, it had disappeared into the thin air, leaving quite an amount of dust and leaves in Prince Lion's face. The lion leapt back to the shade and ran around. His mouth was open, tongue sticking out, the throat letting out growls, and the heart beating like a war drum. He cast his eyes here and there and into the sky. He felt thirsty and itchy and yet tired. "Cool down," he said to himself. "The whirlwind is only teasing you." Well, he knew what he would do. He would also tease the whirlwind. He quickly swept the leaves into one place and lay on them. He closed his eyes halfway and threw his paws lifelessly in the air. He pretended to be deep asleep and snoring. He waited for some time, but nothing happened. Tired of waiting, he rose up saying, "The whirlwind is a joker, a nasty joker." "Haw! Not nasty," cried a voice from above, high up in the canopy. The lion flashed his eyes at the canopy. He leapt and caught an animal at the throat. It was the baboon who had perched himself on a branch. "Oh, lion, the great wrestler, please let," said the baboon, choking in pain. The lion let him go. "I am sorry, but I thought you were the whirlwind. Next time, make sure you announce your arrival," said the lion. "I hate those who take me by surprise. What were you saying?" "The wind is not a joker," said the baboon timidly. "I can see something behind you." Prince Lion turned quickly and picked up a neat white envelope. He opened it up without looking at the stamp in one corner. The letter was in neat handwriting, like that of a writer who had invented his own manual font. It read, "My dear friend Prince Lion, I hope you are doing well in the savannah. I wish to invite you to Lapland where I live. Please come and enjoy the winter with me. Come with as many friends as you can. I have prepared for a Christmas party. Sincerely, KB." He read the letter again. Immediately he remembered Karhu the bear, KB to his friends, in his Karuntalo home in Lapland. Sana the swallow is known as the tireless traveler because every year she flies to the north with her flock to enjoy the summer there, and then returns to the south to escape the winter. Once upon a time, in the heart of the savannah, she met Prince Lion as she was preparing for her flight to the north. "Good morning, Sana," said Prince Lion. "Please tell me about the north." Sana the swallow flew round and round until Prince Lion thought she was a crown around his head. She flew high into the blue sunny sky and disappeared. But actually, she was looking below at the acacia trees, the deep green bushes, the landscape of rolling hills, great rocks and valleys. She dipped into the high brown grasses and grasped at a grasshopper to nibble at. She darted into the great lake, took a quick bath and a cool drink from the sparkling waters. Finally, she perched herself on the tree above Prince Lion and said, "It is a strange place of very cold seasons. It is covered with cotton-colored things called snow, and darkness is upon the land all day long." "Do people live there?" asked a puzzled Prince Lion. "Yes, Karhu and his clan." "Karhu? Who is that?" asked Prince Lion, getting interested. "Prince Karhu, the bear, lives in his wonderful Lapland den called Karuntalo." "Then go and tell him I'm his friend, and I wish to see him." As Sana was about to take off, Prince Lion waved his paw at her, saying, "Wait." He went to his den at the foot of the rolling hill and wrote a fine letter to dear Karhu. It read in part, "I am Prince Lion. You probably have heard of me, but please allow me to introduce to you my other friends." He went on writing, "Ogila the hare is clever. His forge keeps him busy forever. Odanga the elephant has a proboscis. If only it could suck water by osmosis. The daring rhino aims with only one horn. No one has dared him since he was born. The buffalo looks like a cow, but if you tell her, she'll ask how. The leopard is agile and beautiful. The giraffe, fast-sighted and graceful. Her patterns prove the painting was good. The hippo, not unlike a huge trunk of wood, was once as handsome as a horse. His famous face, a study in a correspondence course. The roan antelope bellows across the plains. The zebra's many stripes meet at the manes. The ostrich has wings that look light, but never has he used them for flight. In all, the lion introduced some very close friends whom he called the Big 100 and mentioned thousands more. He only stopped writing because he thought that a letter with more names might be too heavy for Sana the swallow to carry on a long journey. Through Sana, the lion and the bear became good friends, even though they had yet to meet. They exchanged letters and longed to visit each other. Prince Lion longed to see how a country could be as white as cotton, and why the snow would not melt for a whole season. And the bear, on his part, longed to be at a place where days and nights were of the same length throughout the year, and summer was the only one season. The time for adventure was now, thought Prince Lion. Yet he wondered why Karhu the bear had invited him for Christmas through Wellwind the Wanderer, of all the messengers. Why hadn't he sent Santa as he had always done? But his friend may have wanted to surprise him in all ways. He turned around to share his surprise with the baboon. "It is my friend Karhu the bear. We must visit him," said the prince. "Well, if we must," the baboon said laconically. He was not so enthusiastic. The savannah had everything for him, and he wondered why people would bother about going anywhere. "Let's go to Odanga the elephant," said the lion. The baboon came down and walked with Prince Lion to a forested hill. There, Odanga the elephant was uprooting trees and throwing them about. The rhino was wrestling with an anthill, the leopard struggling up a straight tree, the tortoise talking endlessly to herself, the ostrich running to and fro, the monkey jumping from tree to tree, and the fish eagle flying round and round. "Stop it! I have a surprise for you," said Prince Lion. "Elephant, call a meeting at once." The elephant blew his trumpet, and presently every animal was assembled. Prince Lion announced from the back of the elephant, "Far away in Karuntalo in Lapland, the winter has come to that land, and my friend Karhu the bear, so our friendship may not wear, has said we are all invited. Are we not excited?" All animals chorused back, "Hey, yeah, yes we are." "There will be a party in Christmas, so let us all consider a Christmas gift." He paused. "Ogila," he called the hare, "tell us what we need for the journey to the north." Ogila the hare was regarded as the wisest of all the animals, learned and practical, although at times a cunning joker. He worked out many ideas, inventions, and tricks at his workshop overlooking the Great Lake. He had been working the whole night and morning, and had only taken a break to come to the meeting, and he didn't intend to stay there for long. He stepped forward and recited, "A map, a gift, a compass, provisions, unity, and a purpose." This was said so fast that most animals did not make it out, and many did not understand. Some made suggestions of their own. "Remember to carry heavy clothes," said the weaver bird. "I've heard it said that it is very cold there." "Cold weather," echoed another weaver bird. "By my yellow wings and black back, I swear I shall get used to it." "My feathers, if the cold weather should pluck them off, I'll be walking on my toes." "And if it should pluck off your toes?" "I shall be walking on my kneecap." "And if it should pluck off your kneecap?" "I shall be crawling on my belly." "And if it should disembowel you?" "He he he." The weaver birds conversed in sing-song about the cold weather in the north. "And a harp for singing," said the robin chat. "True, true, true," said the singing sisticola, who, like the robin chat, was also a singer. The robin chat said, "Let me sing you a song. A harp for the melody, in heat or cold, no agony." "Let me tell you, I'm not going anywhere," said the baboon. "For those who are going, I can lend you my snout." "Oh, my tail." "A snout for what?" asked the monkey. "To befriend faces like mine and to scare those unlike mine," said the baboon, making a scary mask of his face with clay soil. In the end, Prince Lion stopped the conversation, some of which were very funny. like the hyena's suggestion for animals to carry truckloads of bones, as if the animals had any trucks. "We will carry only our basic necessities," said Prince Lion, "not everyone's luxuries. Ogila, let's have a talk at your forge." Prince Lion consulted with Ogila for some time. "I'm working on some project," said Ogila the hare. "Can I remain behind?" Prince Lion glared at Ogila. "How can you even think of such a thing? We need you on the journey." "The journey is important, but so is the work at hand. The legend of the sun must be accomplished." "The legend of the sun?" said the lion, searching his memory. "A mere story about the sun returning to earth at midnight." "But our journey is real. Prepare the animals for it." And they walked away. Ogila the hare went round, checking how the animals were preparing. When he came back to his forge, he found Prince Lion waiting for him there. "And now, the Christmas gift for Karhu," he said. Ogila scratched his head for a long time, and the sun rose while he was still scratching his head and muttering, "The Christmas gift?" And he would doze off and wake up still mumbling, "The Christmas gift?" 1 week later, Prince Lion announced, "We shall set off tomorrow." The animals were so excited that they hardly slept that night. Even Ogila the hare, ever adventurous, had been persuaded to postpone his Legend of the Sun project. Singing and drumming and trumpeting filled the air, and the conversation had the same lines. "He said we are all invited. Are we not excited? Hey, yeah, yes we are." Early in the morning, the animals were ready. They gathered at the foot of the round hill. They were happy about the journey, but also sad that they would miss the rolling hills, the plains, and the great lake. Grandmother Tortoise, who was the oldest of all the animals, said, "In the beginning, it was like this. All the animals were together, and then they set off on a journey. Very slowly at first, but they picked up speed on the way. Now, they are far away from here. Today we follow in the path of those who went to the north. It is going to be very exciting." "Hey, yeah," said the animals, "but also very risky." It was too exciting already, and Grandmother Tortoise, warning, was drowned in a medley of animal, insect, and bird sounds. Only the little squirrels asked, "Risky? How can a journey be risky?" "Because the path is full of monsters and mysteries." The squirrels did not understand, but they shuddered because the words monsters and mysteries sounded like the animals would encounter very terrible creatures. They were just about to ask more questions when the weaverbird said, "Hush!" And the praying mantis put her hands together and prayed, "May the journey be well for all of us." "Hey, yeah," said the animals. "That blesses the journey," said Grandma Tortoise, assuring the squirrels. Ogila the hare read the map. It was a magical one, showing the current weathers and landscapes. He then said, "Always stick together, and whenever you are tired, you must always say these magic words. Rain or sunshine, bees or flies, the north is our destination." "The north is our destination," chorused back the animals. "Where is the gift?" asked Prince Lion. There was silence. Ogila the hare scratched his head. "Where is the gift?" roared Prince Lion. "It is like this," said Ogila. He took Prince Lion aside and whispered in his ear, even though the latter looked as though he was going to eat up the hare. The animals murmured about Ogila being not serious. "These days, he only talks about the legend of the sun," said the weaverbird, "and he shuts himself in his workshop carving birds that he says will fly." He should create for himself a wing, said another weaver bird. And learn to fly on it, said a bird. Can you imagine someone creating birds like us? Said the weaver bird. Aha! Laughed the hyena. He's playing God. I hope he will make bones for me too, and then he will be my God. Ha ha ha! The little squirrels were puzzled. Who created us? They asked. Where were we created? They didn't get any answer, but they were sure it was not the hare who created them at his forge. That workshop should be given to someone else, the hyena suggested in a serious tone. After all, the workshop did not belong to Ogila's grandfather, but to someone else. And who was that? Asked the weaver bird. The hyena laughed a lot in his effort to remember, cracked his fingers, and then a bone, but ended up with the same statements. After all, the workshop did not belong to his grandfather, but to someone else. He then gave out such a loud whoop that the weaver bird was just too ashamed to be talking to him. She put as much distance between her and the hyena. A makeshift workshop was made for the hare to work in, and Elephant kindly offered to carry it on his back. Now, you can work on your project, even as you make the gift, said Prince Lion to the hare. The hare made a thumbs-up sign as he got into the workshop for a smooth ride. He made some fire, fumbled with some metals, but could not think of anything to forge immediately. He turned to his diary and began to make an entry. He called it the list of all animals traveling to the north, their characteristics and stories. It read, I like it here because I can see everyone. Ageless grandmother tortoise was born at the beginning of the world. But her stories, are they truth or lies? Well, if Karoo likes the truths, I suspect he does, we shall separate them from the lies and give them to him as Christmas gifts. The robin chat dances and sings with an angelic voice on the papyrus reeds. The weaver bird is noisy but very talented in weaving baskets. The hyena, if it were not for his cowardice and love of bones, would be a great gentleman of the savannah. Here too is Kibi Kibi the honey badger. He loves honey so much. The animals cheered as the journey started. What a journey it was. The hare saw the giraffes march ahead, looking far into the distance so that there was no need for scouts. They sang the giraffe song as they climbed up a hill. Kapur, kapur, necks are long, legs are long, kapur, kapur. The journey is long, please pace up, kapur, kapur, kapur. Watch the march, kapur, kapur. From the top of the hill, they announced that they could see groves of bamboos, teaks, pines, and oaks. The ancient path had been overgrown with a forest so thick that it was almost impossible to go through it. The monkeys chattered in excitement, but the other animals were sad. Don't worry, said Old Monkey, and he ordered his troops to work. The monkeys helped carry animals from tree to tree. Sometimes they used their tails as ropes to jump from tree to tree. Sometimes they literally threw animals from one tree to another, catching them in the air before they landed home. It was exciting to the kids, but not to the adults who thought it was a dangerous game. Odanga the elephant sniffed at the old forest, coiled his trunk around one bamboo tree, threw it into his mouth and munched it. He felt refreshed, darted, and simply crashed through the forest, trumpeting and clearing the way for other animals who didn't like the monkey games. Kibi Kibi the badger trotted through the cleared path, looking at the ground. He ran forwards and backwards, so full of energy. Then he suddenly stopped, looking at something intensely. What is it? Asked the inquisitive squirrels, crowding around the badger. Marks, said the badger, putting his paws into one mark to see if it matched. It didn't. He tried another. It matched. The animals were puzzled by the discovery of marks of hoofs, claws, and feet. They tried their paws, hoofs, and claws into them, and found that they fitted. Grandma Tortoise quickly explained that they were in the right tracks, which had been used by the gone generations when leaving the savannah. This surely is the path, and we are going to follow it up to Lapland. I am walking in the tracks of my ancestor, said Honey Badger proudly. Turning to Grandmother Tortoise, he asked, Grandma, why did my ancestors travel? And did they travel to Lapland? Well, whoever heard of honey badgers in the north? They just roam around the savannah. Kibi was sad about his ancestors' lack of real adventure as he called this journey to the north. But Grandmother Tortoise had some good news for him. Well, some of your ancestors did reach the north, and let's see what role they played in history. She turned the pages of the book of her memory. Yes, they were fierce fighters who fought in the battle for Toad Hall. Battle for Toad Hall? Asked the squirrels who never let a story pass without a question. Yes, the greatest battle that has ever been fought by the riverbank people. Who is Mr. Toad? Where from? Why was his hall taken? How? Asked the squirrels, hoping to get the story miraculously all at once. Mr. Toad is the most famous toad in the world. He was kept in prison for misbehaving, but he later planned the simplest prison escape ever in the animal history. Anyway, while Toad was away, Toad Hall was taken over by the enemies from the woods. It was General Badger who led in the fight to free it. This answer only whetted the squirrel's appetite for Grandma's stories. Meanwhile, Ogila the hare was still making entries into his diary. The monkey's tail is long. Is it a blessing or a curse? The elephant's proboscis, is it a trumpet or a nose? And the porcupine's spines, are they hairs or darts? A tail, a proboscis, and a spine can all be fine gifts, but how to forge them is the question. Can a tail be long if it is cut? How does a proboscis leave the elephant? And how can a spine be made outside the porcupine? Ogila the hare took a break from writing. He became aware of the sounds of the march, the silent snort of the hippo, the blaring of the antelopes, the whining of the wild dog, and the laughter of the hyena, the songs of the birds. All the sounds mingled to form a melody that was far more enriching than water or food. He listened to the weaverbirds sing songs and pictured them at home building nests. But now they were not building nests, and so were idle, gossiping, and probably making noise. Maybe they could be of help, he thought. They could weave a basket for Karhu to carry his fruits. He came out of the forge and looked at the weaverbird, and sure enough, she was trying to weave a nest out of ugly blades of grass. The next minute, she was gone. The landscape was changing so fast that Ogila the hare was lost. He climbed to his workshop and looked at his map. Now, it showed water and green vegetation running through the heart of the continent. He looked up and saw the waters of a vast river. Chapter 2. The Legend of the Great River. The Great River was such a sight for the animals, most of whom had not seen it before. They lined along its banks, marveling at its beauty and origins. Many animals crowded around Grandma Tortoise, for an explanation. Ogila the hare came out of his workshop and looked around. "Have you seen the weaver bird?" he asked the robin. "Always a gossiper. She must have gone somewhere to collect more gossip." "I'll take a walk," said the hare, but he was already bounding downstream. "This is the longest river in the world," said Grandma Tortoise. "Yet I hate to call it just a river, because it is more than that." "Where does it come from? And where is it going?" asked the squirrels. Grandma Tortoise dipped in the water and swam on her back. She felt so refreshed. "Why, this is our own water," she said. "Water from our own great lake." Little Squirrel looked at the great river and touched it with his slender paws. It was like a long winding lake, but flowing on endlessly. It also had dams large enough for swimming for years without covering their whole lengths. Floating islands big enough to make homes for all squirrels in the world wandered along its length and from bank to bank. He wanted to ride on them. "The residents of this river must be a happy lot," he concluded. He felt the urge to stay here forever, but then he saw something moving suspiciously underwater. "Look, Grandma," he said, pointing to the moving object. Grandma Tortoise quickly clambered up the riverbank. "The great river crocodiles," she said. "I don't trust them." She wiped the water from her body and went on. "The great river was a gift from our giant Lolwe to King Pharaoh." Every savanna animal knew who the giant was because it was he who urinated the great lake and saved people from drought and famine. But they didn't know about the great river being a gift to Pharaoh. "You see," explained Grandma Tortoise, "the giant had fallen in love with King Pharaoh's daughter, the most beautiful Auranam. In those days, you had to give your in-laws the best gift to have their daughter. Lolwe would give anything to have Pharaoh's girl. Pharaoh had water problems and he had heard of Lolwe's abilities. He said to Lolwe, 'Give us some water and the maiden will be yours.' Well, Lolwe wanted to pass water there and then to make another lake, the greatest of them all, for he loved that Pharaoh girl so much. But that would be bad manners in front of his in-laws. So he got hold of the pot that held the great lake and tilted it towards Pharaoh's kingdom. The water spilled and flowed on and on up to the kingdom. That was the great river, our water, and wherever it touched, there was happiness. There was life. And the Pharaoh made use of the water so well that he became a great king, known all over the world, and his people were wonderful in words and deeds. In those days, Giant Lolwe brought his bride to the savannah where he stayed with her, using Mount Homa as his seat and home. And wherever his in-laws wanted more water, he simply stood and poured more water to our tilted giant pot, the Great Lake, and it would just spill over. Pharaoh would get more water and soil, timber, animals, and fish too would flow with the floods to his kingdom. And Lolwe would just follow the great river and reach Pharaoh's kingdom in no time, because his in-laws loved to see him so much for his magical ways. Time came when other kings became jealous of this gift to the Pharaoh, and they began to look for ways of winning over Lolwe so that he could do the same magic to them. Well, maybe there was something in beautiful maidens that Lolwe liked, so they placed their maidens where Lolwe would pass. That means they threw these maidens into the giant river, so Lolwe would just pick them up. For some time that worked, and there was such happiness and civilization in the great river valley. And Auranam, she got mad at that and immediately consulted a witch. "My husband is having other maidens," she said. "Can you help me?" "Easy job," said the witch. "We shall remove them out of Lolwe's way. We shall pick them before Lolwe picks them. Let them place the maidens in the water again." The witch bred voracious beasts and put them in the water. They are the great river crocodiles. They ate up all the maidens put in the river. Why do they move so secretly? Asked little squirrels. They are looking for food. I don't trust them. They want to feed you on their young ones, and boy, are they many. These creatures have never heard of birth control. A female can lay more than 60 eggs and hatch them all, and then she has to feed them all. And the more than 60 will give birth to young ones. More than 60 times, more than 60 times, more than 60, forever. How many is that? Little squirrel scratched his head a lot, but came up with no answer. But he was wondering what his friend the mongoose would do with 60 times 60 eggs. Tatai says, stories always made his imagination work so fast. Ogila the hare shot through the bushes with an idea. This is the right time. I shall collect the right materials and then take them to the weaver bird. She will weave baskets and nests that will keep her busy. His eyes were keen on some special grasses, but he loved the palm leaves more. They split easily without damage and are strong like sisal ropes. Weavers like palms more than grass blades. The only problem was that the palms were far away. He had looked at his map and saw them farther downstream. There was no telling what would happen to him in those strange lands. But he didn't need company. My line is a line of adventurers, he said proudly. He wanted to surprise the weaver bird with the materials and everybody with the gifts. He passed through some thick reeds and for a moment thought that their leaves were as good as palm fronds. But he had decided on the palms. They were beautiful, especially those that looked like green ferns. He could even use some when it came too hot. He just had to get them. He cleared the reeds in one leap, and when he landed so far away, he thought he was a kangaroo. Then he saw in the distance, on the edge of the river, more palm trees than he had ever seen in his life. Good! He bounded to a cluster of the greenest palms. At first, he thought he should just cut the palm leaves and leave. He was running short of time. Soon, the animals would decide to move on, and Prince Lion would roar, "Where is Ogila? Where is Ogila?" roared the lion, cutting Grandma's stories short. He wanted the animals to be organized for the crossing. He too never trusted the great river crocodiles. "Ha ha ha ha! Well," said the hyena, laughing, He's probably... He whined, defeated on what to say, and then, surprising even himself, he blurted out, "Drowning in the river." "Shut up," said the lion. "Such thoughtless remarks will land you in trouble." The lion called the savannah crocodiles and ordered them to look for a suitable ford. "You shall guard the ford as the animals cross," he said. The savannah crocodiles opened their mouths wide in a show of dominance to their great river cousins. There was a far more pleasant sight than Ogila the hare had ever dreamed of in his life. Fruits, yellow and orange in ripeness, beckoned to him from the stems of the palm trees. The aroma was so pleasant that he hesitated to spoil it by eating the fruits. He let out a whistle in happiness and picked a fruit to nibble at. Sweet was the moment. Down below, the water flowed on. Beetles played on the surface as butterflies fluttered around. A breeze cooled his body, which had heated up during the flight. What a good place to put up a workshop and work on inventions, he thought. Yet there was a problem. Why were there no animals and birds in this seemingly habitable place? Ogila hated such silence and stillness, though it would be best for a working mind like his. He hesitated to pick another fruit. Suddenly, the water threw up an object in a frenzied splash. It was grey, like the color of the water and the sky. It flew, nay, straightened itself in a speed remarkable for its large size. In no time, Ogila the hare found himself in the rough grip of a giant hand. His captor, now satisfied with the fulfilled intention, walked slowly and quietly out the water and lay under the palm trees. He displayed his victim around as though to some unseen beings. Ogila the hare, shocked beyond making any sound, was choking in the hot grip of the monster. "We are pleased," the monster said. "We are going to feast." Who are you?" asked Ogila the hare, recovering from his shock. He had never been captured before and had never imagined it. Less still had he imagined that he, the cleverest of the animals, would be so stupid to have left off his guard. "Always stick together," he had told the animals, and now he had broken his own rule, with consequences. He peered out of the finger of the giant. He was such an ugly monster, a creature from the water, and yet not a crocodile, but worse than a crocodile. He was willing to die in the hands or in the jaws of any other creature, but not this one. "We are a polar, said the monster. "We are happy." "I am only seeing one apula, said Ogila the hare, wondering whether so many of such big creatures would fit in the whole world, let alone this palm grove. He had heard of the apula in Grandma Tortoise's tales, but he had never thought they were real and this big. "Well, no need to see all of us, but since you may feed one of us, I could introduce you to some of us," he said. "We are my mouth, my jaws, my eyes, my noses, my toes, my fingers, my stomachs." Ogila the hare was wondering how many organs the creatures had when he raised him to one of his eyes. They were deep blue and watery. Indeed, the eye looked so deep, and Ogila the hare could see all sorts of creatures swimming there and trying to come out. He looked carefully and saw it was not a reflection that was deceiving him. It was a reality. The creature's eye was a sea out of which some creatures were trying to swim. They were so distressed. Some were drowning. "What an inquisitive food," said Apolapol. "Do you want me to feed you to my eye? I can just deposit you there." Oh no, please," pleaded Ogila the hare, seeing that there would be no way of swimming out of the monster's eye. "Well, hares are troublesome to my eye. I prefer fish there," said the monster. "Maybe I should feed you to my nose," he said, lowering Ogila to the nose. The nose was big, clogged, and stinking. Ogila almost threw up the palm fruits he had eaten, an act which would have been very welcome by the monster, for he loved so much the digested food of his victims. The hare could see many indescribable creatures caught up and struggling to come out of the thick mucus. Please don't," cried Ogila the hare, imagining how cruel it would be to die in such a horrible place. "Well, hares are troublesome to my nose," said the monster. "Maybe I should feed you to my ears." His hands traveled with him over the ears. He counted 5 of them and landed with him in one of them. The ear was full of wax, black like tar and melting. Several creatures were caught up in it and were screaming helplessly. Please don't," screamed Ogila the hare. "Well, hares are troublesome to my ears," said the monster. "Maybe I should feed you to my jaws, huh? You love my mouth and jaws, don't you?" Ogila did not want to imagine what the mouth and jaws would be like, but he certainly didn't love them. The monster was slowly lowering him to his mouth, and it was taking forever. Moreover, there were several mouths, about 20, and he didn't know which one he was going to land in. He was in such a pain. He was horrified to see a giant celebrate feasting on a creature the size of the tip of his finger. "Why do you want to feast on me?" he said, thinking of how to delay his death. "I'm just a small animal." "You ate our palm fruit. That's good. No, we eat you. That's good. Nothing is small for us. We eat 100,009 fishes a day, 2,092 fruits, 3,000 branches and leaves, 201 birds, 4,044 small animals. We avoid lions only. They are troublesome creatures." Ogilah the hare was struck by 1,000 ideas at once, and for the first time since he was captured, he saw himself joining his fellow animals and continuing with the journey. "Well, seeing that you are so many and you feast on so many creatures," said Ogilah the hare, "I have good news for you." The monster laughed, and it was not funny. It was such a din that for a moment Ogilah the hare was deaf. "Well, hares are troublesome creatures, but they still serve as food. Can food have ideas?" His hand had reached one of the mouths, and it was probably the biggest. It was the size of a lake, and the teeth were like big, sharp-ended rocks jutting out along its walls. The tongue formed a bed to saliva, which was dirty, but abundant enough for a boat to ride on. And like other places, there were no living creatures here, only bones, crushed limbs, and mangled flesh. Ogilah's hopes disappeared. "Say it quick," boomed Apolapol. "My mouth and jaws want you. We have to go hunting or we'll die of hunger." "There are so many of us," said Ogilah, speaking very fast. "Enough for all of you. If you spare my life, I can bring them all to you." The monster hesitated and then took Ogilah away from the mouth. "Interrogation," he said gleefully. "My mouth wanted you so much I forgot to ask. Who are you? Where from?" Ogilah quickly explained. "I am Ogilah the spy in a large caravan of animals. Don't you see how many animals, how much food you can have for? We want to settle around, and I was sent to spy around, and if I'm not seen, the animals are going to be worried. They're going to be suspicious. Look for me. Don't you see how many animals, how much food you lose? And worse, we have 1,000,000 lions guarding us." "Slow down," said Apolapol. "I've eaten many creatures, only have not digested them. I want to digest, how I want to, but I'll only do it when the age of the locusts come. When am I telling you all this?" "We were told that the age would only come when a large caravan would be moving to the north. I know food can get very creative when they sense danger, but tell me the truth or else." He was hovering the hare above his mouth. "True," said the hare, ashamed that he had lied and may soon lie again. "We are the animals traveling to the north. Only wanted to be here and rest a bit, so I was spying around, but can also turn around and be your spy if you spare my life. Our lions are fierce, and I heard them say the only creature they want to tear to pieces is Apolapol, and they put a price for anybody to disappear in the stomach of Apolapol. This creature would be rewarded, but now, if you spare my life, I'll just go back and tell the caravan to move on." "Slow down," said Apolapol. "You talk too much for your size. Do you think you can scare me? I've got a mind to eat you now, and then the whole caravan." He lowered the hare to the lips and touched him with them, the way a browser touches the grass with its lips before eating it. Ogilah felt the hot breath coming from the open mouth. It was like steam, cooking him before he could be eaten. He thought, the lion must now be asking, Where is Ogilah? And I'll never be found, he thought sadly. Where is Ogilah? Roared Prince Lion at the bank of the great river. He must have retired to some bush to think about the gift, said the weaver bird, who had flown ahead with some birds, but had come back because he found their company boring. This time the lion was not angry, but alarmed that the hare could be left behind. But he didn't want to show any feelings to the animals, and so he roared. Crows! Mighty Odanga the elephant and other big animals waded through, but had to swim at some points where it was so deep. But not all animals were swimmers, and so the otters, the hippos, the savanna crocodiles, and all the fishes and water animals helped them along from beach to beach and from bank to bank. Ogilah the hare jumped on top of the last savanna crocodile. Where are you coming from? Asked Prince Lion, who had remained behind to see the last animals cross safely. It is like this. It is like this, mimicked the lion. Your job here is to make the gift, not to get lost and delay the journey. Where is the gift? It is the materials I was looking for, said the hare. And where are the materials? I found a monster. He caught me, but I escaped. Go and tell those tales to the squirrels. Don't joke around. I'm warning you. And he climbed on top of the hippo and crossed the river. Ogilah the hare climbed to his workshop, tired and angry. The lion thinks I'm only a joker, he thought bitterly. But he was also ashamed. How could he, of all the people, have broken the rule of sticking together? And how could he boast of escaping, yet the monster had only released him? Ogilah thought of how the apulapul had come close to eating him up, even when he had threatened him that 1,000,000 lions would come and revenge for his death. The monster was getting angrier and definitely hungrier at the mention of rhinos, elephants, leopards, and other fierce animals. When the monster was about to drop him into his mouth, he had said, Well, I've never eaten a more entertaining food than you, Ogilah. But I'm sorry, my hunger for food is more than my hunger for entertainment. We do not eat stories, though. I wouldn't mind them if they were edible. Say your last word anyway. In the twinkling of Apolapol's eyes, the hare made 1,000 guesses on what would save him. At last, he tried. I know of an edible story, and his little Apolapol, who was tamed by my grandfather, the magician, and became a great friend of mine in our home, where there were so many stories he could eat them for breakfast, lunch, supper, and he himself became a story that can be eaten. Stop, said the monster, taking Ogilah away from his mouth. Have you said little Apolapol lives with you? Yes, and he's a great friend of mine back at home. And your grandfather, does he tame people? Yes, Ogilah said eagerly. That's what he does best. You must go back and tell him to tame little Apolapol for me, said the monster sadly. When he's done that, you must bring little Apolapol to me. Yes, I know how to bring him here to you. That's my job. Go without delay and tell the caravan to move on, said the monster, dropping Ogilah to the ground. Just make sure the animals move on to the north. And if you don't come back with little Apolapol, I'll come for you and eat you up. Yes, of course. I must go back home and the caravan must move on to the north. Ogilah did not drop but flew from Apolapol's large fingers. Now, in his workshop, Ogilah knew why he had lied to Apolapol, but he didn't know why he had made up the story of little Apolapol and how it had turned out to be real. He had not known that there was such a person in the stories, let alone in real life. And of course, he was not going to be bothered looking for such a person. What bothered him was why the monster had suddenly softened and released him at the mention of little Apolapol. What a story! Would he tell it to the animals or just keep it secret? Or would he tell it as a gift to Karhu? Kapur, kapur, we see mountains, valleys, cliffs, thorny landscapes, announced the giraffes who were always ahead of all the other animals, except for some birds who patrol the skies. Presently, the caravan reached the rough terrains at the edge of the great valley. The animals clambered up the hills and cliffs, breathing heavily. At some points, the escarpments were so steep that some animals fell to the floor. The big animals offered their backs so the small ones rode on them. The monkeys made ropes and pulled others to safety. The ant bears dug and cut tunnels through the impossible hills and mountains. And when sheer strength was needed, the buffaloes, the rhinos, the roan antelopes, the elephants, and the hippos combined and brought steep hills down, filled the gorges with the rubble, and made bridges. All the while, Ogila the hare was thinking about the gift in his workshop. What gift do you think Ogila is working on? Asked the weaver bird. Well, said the crane bird, snapping his wings, it may be one of those tricks of his. He will turn into dry meat, offer himself to Karhu, and when the bear is about to eat him, he will turn into his true self again and ask, Well, Karhu, do you always eat your friends? The animals all laughed because they knew the source of the joke. It was a story about one of Ogila's ancestors who had gone on a journey to the sky together with a spider. The spider made a special web that the animals used like a bridge between the earth and the sky. After some time in the sky, the animals disagreed among themselves, and the spider escaped back to earth with his web, leaving Ogila's ancestors stranded. He turned into dry meat so that he would not fall hard. Later, a woman picked the dry meat and took it home. It was such a good dry meat to be cooked in milk and ghee. Everybody in the clan was expecting a great feast. The woman cooked the meat with all the culinary skills she had learnt in her life, and then served it to important people in her family and the guests. But before anybody tasted the meat, Ogila's ancestor turned into his real self again, resurrected his body, and fled, leaving everybody with their mouths open. That would be a good one, said the robin chat, still laughing about the joke. I think it would be a disaster, said the weaver bird. Ogila is wise enough not to make such a practical joke. Ogila came down from his workshop, saying, It is not only for me to make a gift. It is a collective responsibility. Who can carve for us bear in the snow? Bear in the snow? Collective responsibility? Carving? Asked the little squirrels. The woodpecker did not understand what a collective responsibility meant, but he was good at carving. I can make a good carving of bear in the snow, he said. He took a piece of wood and began working on it. He tapped on it with his beaks, making vague patterns of an animal. The robin chat drew closer, much impressed. Carving is like composing a song, he said. You start with some vague idea, and then it takes shape. He began to make sounds and turned to the hare. I can sing about bear in the snow. Only make sure there is a line about friendship and cooperation, said the hare. We should sing about making friends, peace, and tolerance. The robin chat began to compose some lines. Bear in the snow is a friend. We should seek to know each other. Quiet, said the woodpecker. I like working on in silence. But carving the image of the bear was so much sound and rhythm. As the woodpecker tapped on the wood, scraping portions of it, so did the robin chat compose his lines of the song about the bear in the snow. As the image of the bear was ready, so too was robin chat's song. The woodpecker showed the image to the excited animals. Everybody was impressed, except the weaver bird. My yellow wings, she said, this is not the bear in the snow. Yes, it is bear in the snow, said robin chat, talking about his song rather than the carving. He waved the papyrus reed he was carrying in the wind, and it made sweet whistling music. He sang, "Bear in the snow is a friend. We seek to know. Look at his fur. It is all snow. Look at his den. It is all snow." The birds took up this song and chorused it as they flew higher and higher in the air. The spindly leaves of the papyrus reeds made such beautiful music in the wind that even the animals on the land found themselves dancing madly to it. Within a short time, the animals had covered a very long distance without knowing it. It was as though the song was an aircraft that had carried them far over the waters and land. The wood carving may have been very good, but the song was a greater success. The woodpecker went around showing the image of Bear in the Snow. Fortunately, the success of the song now went to the carving too, so that everybody admiringly handled it and passed it on to another admirer. Only the weaver bird still looked at it with some dislike. "It is not Bear in the Snow," muttered the weaver bird. "It is the lion in a sea of milk." "You are jealous," said the woodpecker, handing the carving to Ogila the hare. "A good idea for a gift," said the hare, keeping the carving in the workshop. "You can sing about anything," said the weaver bird, "but you can't carve an image of what you don't know." The animals went on singing the new hit, "Bear in the Snow." "Bear in the snow is a friend. We seek to know. Look at his fur. It is all snow. Look at his den. It is all snow. Bear in the snow is a friend. We seek to know." The largest graveyard in the world. Ogila the hare was making very interesting entries in his diary about the paw prints from his perch on the back of the elephant. A careful following of these ancient marks will lead us to fossils of ancient animals. Fossils are not like grandma's stories. They are the scientific proof that the savannah, where my home is the birthplace of all animals. Ogila the hare was very proud of his use of words like ancient, fossils, and scientific proof. They made him feel very learned and scientific. He went on. In our right minds, we can conclude that the savannah is the original home of all animals, and these include the bears, the tigers, the reindeer, and the elk. About Apulapul, he must have been chased from the fellowship of savannah animals because of his bad ways. Perhaps this story should be the Christmas gift to Kathu. While Ogila was wondering whether he should delete the phrase "in our right minds" and to add that Grandma Tortoise's stories had a grain of truth in them, he noticed some grain hit his paper and go through it like a small bullet. He looked up. "Look at this dust," he said aloud. "It is all snow," sang the elephant, thinking that Ogila the hare had added another line to the Robin Chat song. "No," he said. "They are grains of sand and they hurt my eyes." He was surprised at the change of weather and landscape. He looked at his map and said, "We are on the edge of the great desert and we are singing of snow. What irony." The happy song died away, and in its stead was the wailing wind of the great desert.
The animals saw the endless wilderness before them and shook with fear. The savannah, their dear home, was now behind. The birds came down to announce that there was going to be hot, windy, and dry weather ahead. They were feeling thirsty already, but there was no water in sight. Luckily, the elephants had carried water in their trunks, and some animals had carried juicy stems of plants like sugar canes and papyrus reed roots. The ostrich, too, had a solution to the water problem. He simply sniffed around for water, and when he felt it, he ran so fast, like a car, fetched it in a beak and gullet, and came back with it to the relief of thirsting animals. Aye, the ostrich is the fastest thing on two legs. How do you do it? Asked the hippo, who was not happy at all, walking in a waterless desert and had to have so much water poured on him in order to keep alive. Well, I'm used to such races in the savannah, where some rogues burn the bush, and I have to keep my nest from burning. During the day, or during the dry seasons, I'm always on the run. At night, the animals camped in the great desert. It was rather cool now, and there were many other things to enjoy. The animals lit fires and cooked food. The onyos, or insects, had carried oil in their bodies, so there was no lack of cooking oil. The mammals had carried milk in their udders, so there was no lack of drink. All animals put their food together, and the praying mantis put her blessed hands over it. It was a wonderful party in the moonlit desert that they had that night with songs and trumpets. The sun rose in golden colors over the smooth sand dunes, and the journey went on. The desert seemed endless, with sheets upon sheets, mirages upon mirages, and dunes upon dunes of sand. The few rivers that the animals had drunk from disappeared in the sand, and everyone was thirsty. The animals ran out of water supply because everyone had taken more than their share to avoid being dehydrated. Yet, only the marks of the dead ancestors of rivers could be seen in deadly canyons and valleys. Days became white with heat, evenings red like blood, and nights dark with stars cut off by the dust and the freezing cold. In the morning, desert wind howled. A cloud of sound, like a rain cloud, fell on the animals, only that instead of raindrops, grains of sand hit the animals with fierce intensity. Some animals screamed in pain, but others urged the caravan to move on. At noon, the animals had not covered any distance to talk about. Some birds collapsed from the sky and would have been cooked in the baking sand had not their bigger colleagues picked them up and carried them on their backs. The bigger animals trudged on, staggering as though they had taken too much of the amarula wine. Then the animals saw so many sand dunes ahead, tall and smooth like a group of beauties posing for a desert photo. But their blood-red color and the searing heat they emitted were ominous enough to make the animals have second thoughts about them. Moreover, there was one that was shaped like a ghost of an animal, complete with legs, hands, tails, and canines. The animals stopped. The weaverbird perched herself on a hot rock and looked around. She could see skeletons of all types of plants and animals strewn in the sand. "It must be the largest graveyard in the world," she said. Grandma Tortoise came and seated herself beside her. "They died," she said. "They died." "Who died?" asked the hyena, looking at the skeletons admiringly. The squirrels edged closer, but they were too exhausted to ask questions. The animals discovered more and more skeletons. The wind was moaning now, and with it voices like those of screaming people. Grandma Tortoise kept on chanting, "They died! They died! Oh, how terrible was the rage! They died! Who would avoid the stare? They died!" The animals began to see things. I am seeing a giant frog keeping water in its throat, but refusing to give me even a drop for my burning tongue, said the rhino. A desert hyena is standing in my way, but I'll just go it to death, said the buffalo, stumbling on a rock. There is so much water in front of me, but I can't drink or swim in it, said the hippo. I am dying, he said, collapsing. With a thud, the hippo crumbled in a heap. His breath was heavy, and his skin was sweating blood. The animals crowded around him. Do something, sir, said Grandma Tortoise, running towards Prince Lion, who was behind. Don't you see this is the ghost hole? The ghosts are sending hallucinations.
Prince Lion, himself not in a better shape, said, "You should have told us before we reached it." "But the ghost hole does not announce itself," said Grandma. "You can't see it until you reach it." "Let's give the hippo some shade," said Prince Lion. Some birds flew above the hippo and provided the shade. "Can we have some water?" said Prince Lion. No one had any water. "Now, Odanga, can we have some water?" said the lion. Odanga the elephant too had run out of water. He had used so much trying to cool his large body, and now what was left was only in his bladder, if that could be called water. After a signal from Prince Lion, he thought hard and, stepping aside, passed out the coolest water from his bladder. In big containers, the water was poured onto the body of the hippo until he stopped sweating blood and rose up. But even then, some more animals had been brought down by the heat of the hottest desert in the world. Many more were in bad shape. "This ghost hole was once a large city with beautiful fertile gardens," said Grandma Tortoise. "But the people here and their friends cut down the trees belonging to the sun, making him so angry. Then he stared at this city, and when the people started moving, he struck them. They all died screaming, and we can still hear their screams up to now. The wind blew over the city and buried them with the sand. Each of these mounds is a tomb to thousands. Oh, how terrible is the rage of the sun." It seemed as though the sun was doing the same staring business with the animals too. Suddenly, the ghostly sand dune sprang to life. It kicked the sand, bared its canines, and lurched towards the animals. It made a boxing move, punching in the air and dancing as it went for the animals. "The ghost of the dunes," said Grandma Tortoise. "He was once the king of the vast empire, but now he desires to eat us up." "What are we going to do?" asked the weaver bird. "Return to the savannah, ha 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 ha," said the hyena, "or else we shall soon be eaten or begin eating each other." "That would be cannibalism," said the weaver bird. "No, that would be survival," said the hyena, looking at the skeletons and weak bodies of animals and licking his drooling lips. "Shame on you, hyena," said the Prince Lion. "How can you think of such horrible things?" The hyena whined and kept quiet. "Some scouts are out in the desert looking for water," said Prince Lion. "We shall soon have water, but now, let's get out of here." As soon as the ghost of the dunes saw the animals move away, it broke into a run, chasing them. The animals were filled with horror. It was clear the ghost of the dunes wanted to bury them alive and bake them to death. They regained their strength and ran as fast as their legs could carry them. Flanked on both sides by the Big Ten, the Prince Lion in the rear, and the ghost of the dune blowing like a hurricane, it was a race to watch. Who could beat the lion, running but throwing his tail behind and roaring at the ghost? Who could beat the rhino and the buffalo with their horns ready for war? Who could beat the cheetah in the race? Who could beat the leopard? Who
could beat the gazelle, jumping into the sky and hardly touching the ground, and who could beat the other animals like the tortoise, the hedgehog, and the porcupine, who, being slow, found themselves clinging to the bodies of other faster animals. And the birds were hooting, trumpeting, hissing, whistling. What a din it was! The ghost of the dunes was not one to give up so easily. When he saw the animals were faster, he scooped some sand enough to fill 1,000 sacks and threw it at them. The sand traveled in the air as if its grains were in one big bag, but when it dropped, it exploded like a bomb. For miles, there was darkness brought about by the sand particles in the air. Some animals were buried in the sand, but they quickly forced their way out and resumed their flight even more determinedly than before. The explosions did not affect the animals much, for they were now way ahead of the ghost. At last the ghost of the dunes, tired of the chase, lagged behind. He soon receded into the horizon behind, probably waiting to ambush some more unwary victims. The animals soon forgot about the dangerous creature. Moreover, there would soon be another danger to reckon with. The terrain had turned rocky and mountainous, and the rocks were hot like live coals. Burns and blisters pained the animals' hooves and paws. Presently, the scouts who had been sent out came back. They were mostly water and swamp animals. The animals had a lot of hope, and this could be seen in their crowding around the scouts whenever they arrived. The frog, the fish eagle, the otter, and the ibis in that order. The ibis of the loud war cry surprised everyone by announcing, "There is water!" Where? Show us. The animals were so impatient, looking around for any sign of water. "In the canyon," concluded the ibis. The canyon was just ahead, between some two rocky hills. It was deep, as canyons always are, but once out of the hills, it soon gave way to the sandy plains. Indeed, it was a very short affair, looking like a rectangular hole chiseled out of the sides of the hills. Although it looked dark and fearful, the animals took to it, driven by the need for water. "Careful, careful," said Ogyla the hare, placing himself between two rocks that served as the entrance to the canyon, trying to block big animals hundreds of times bigger than him. It was like blocking a dam with a finger. The animals laughed at the tiny Ogyla. They thought the hare had turned delirious, maybe because he was dehydrated. The urge to drink made the animals crazy, and they stormed into the canyon even as a herd of wild beasts throws itself into the river Mara without any care about the waiting crocodiles.
Thank you for watching Till the Groke Falls in Love.
Chapter 4. The Poisoned Oasis. Later that night, around a bonfire, on a ledge at the oasis, which is shared with others, Ogyla was making an entry into his diary. Everyone was asleep, exhausted and injured beyond description. Ogyla himself was hardly keeping awake, but he had to write something, even in his sleep. After all, wasn't he known as Ngatmatho Tuneno, the one who sees even as he sleeps? He wrote, "Today, we were quite lucky to find an oasis. So the Great Desert isn't just an endless stretch of sand and rocks. The oasis is beautiful, with sparkling blue water and date palms and olives around it.
We rushed to the water and drank to our fill. I have never seen animals drink like that. Odanga the elephant almost finished up the water, and when I asked him what was happening, he said, "Ogila, wait, even my bladder is still empty." The other animals drank and bathed and then went for the dates, figs, and olive fruits. Everybody around here went to sleep, satiated and happy. Everybody except me. I didn't drink the oasis, nor did I eat of its fruits. Since my near-death experience at the banks of the great river, I've become more careful. The palm fruits were too sweet to be true. I don't usually take anything before I have tested it, before I have said it is true. This oasis here is too good to be true. That's why I try to stop the animals at the gate. First, why is it that it lacks residents, even though it is the only oasis for hundreds of kilometers around? Second, and connected to the first, why are there no buildings around? Third, and connected to the first and second, why did we find the dates, figs, and olives untouched, even though there is no food for hundreds of kilometers around? And then fourth, and connected to the first, second, and third, there is something that disturbs me, and I must tell it to Prince Lion at once. Ogila the hare rose up from the ledge and picked his way among the sprawling mass of animals. They had been happy after drinking, but as the evening wore on, they had collapsed into sleep, one by one. Now, they were in any posture that sleep had found them. Some were on their bellies, some on their backs, and yet others even lay on their snouts. Ogila found Prince Lion near the entrance to the canyon, flanked by the buffalo, the rhino, the roan antelope, the zebra, and the leopard. All of them were standing clearly on guard, but when he touched them, he found that they were fast asleep. They were not even dreaming, but sleeping as though they were dead. He returned to the ledge and wrote, "I shook Prince Lion several times, but he couldn't wake up. This is unusual. A lion must never be caught napping." The other animals, too, would not wake up. Now, nocturnal animals should be awake, but not even they are awake. This, too, is unusual. There is nobody on night watch. I am the only one awake in this vast desert. I feel so lonely. Guilt, too, eats me up. I should have told Prince Lion to be wary of the dangers, although Grandma had warned everybody. But I had met danger myself, and everybody would have seen that it was real. Only the lion was angry with me and would not let me talk, and he sometimes thinks I'm just a joker. Was a pula a joke? What could I do? It was so dark. Ogila the hare could not remember when he last saw the moon, or make out whether it was the canyon that had screened it from him. He could hear the howling of the wind, the inscrutable noises of the desert beyond the hills, but the darkness, the noise, and the deep sleep of his colleagues, rather than make him despair, gave him the courage to leave. He wrote, "Having gone through such difficult terrain and hallucinations, having escaped from the Apula and the ghost of the dunes, having fled from the ghost hole, could we so easily succumb to death? There must be an enemy playing a trick on us. There is only one thing for me to keep. I must keep watch." The only way Ogila the hare could keep watch was to keep moving. He felt burnt out, but sleep was the one thing that he didn't want to give in to. Taking a stick from his workshop, he leapt around. He was proud that he was the only security for the animals, yet he was afraid that the enemy may catch him. "I must be very careful," he said. "It could even be that monster himself or his friends. He let me go so easily." Just make sure the animals move on to the north, Apula had said. We were moving to the north anyway, thought Ogila. So what was the deal? Just because he wanted some prophecy to happen and he didn't want to interfere with it by eating me? Just because he wanted to digest all those creatures he had eaten? Oh, poor Ogila. I was a fool again to think that the monster meant well. He must have been sending us into a trap. Yes, Apula is the enemy. What a huge enemy. Ogila felt helpless with a stick in his hands, but he was brave. He walked along the shores of the oasis, stealthily, crouching even when he heard the rustling of a leaf. There were no signs of the enemy. He sat himself down on a cliff above the oasis. Looking around, he thought that the canyon was man-made, and the shape of the oasis inside it was familiar. The gardens, too, looked well kept. Who made this canyon? Asked Ogila. Who looks after the orchards? The enemy, he found himself replying. Suddenly, he started. Something white had jumped from a rock to the beach. The enemy. So it was not Apula, nor was it some terrible monster like the ghost of the dune. But then, an enemy who makes canyons and keeps an orchard, and then this disturbing thing casts a spell on them. This must be a powerful enemy. Could he face him alone? No, he must wake up more animals to help him. He jumped from one animal to another, dealing a blow to each with his stick. Wake up, he shouted. Wake up! His shout echoed in the canyon. Ogila the hare began to sob. Nobody's waking up. He realized that he had been stupid making such a fuss in the full sight of the enemy. Now he had exposed himself, and the animals and the enemy would first kill him, and then eat up the sleeping animals. And he had only done harm to the animals by hitting them. He might have been ill-treating corpses. He went to the entrance again and whispered into the ear of Prince Lion, Wake up, Prince, wake up. The lion did not even stir, but in his posture he looked so strong and brave. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the enemy move closer. The hour has come, said Ogila, clasping his stick. I shall fight like a pride of lions, a herd of buffaloes, a swarm of bees, a pod of hippos, and a flock of birds. He lay down among his sleeping colleagues. Raising his head a bit, he saw a white flash as the enemy jumped over the bodies of the animals. So swift was the enemy that he didn't see him reach the entrance. Oh, what a meal, said the enemy, lifting the legs of the animals at the entrance and letting them drop. Oh, what a pity! Oh, what a meal! It was a strange animal, small and cream in color. Ogila almost laughed when he saw his ears. They were so large and so funny looking on his tiny frame. Swiftly, the enemy moved here and there, and soon it was on Ogila the hare, who was pretending he was long dead. What a pity, the enemy said, lifting the hare by the ear. Suddenly, like a flash of lightning, the hare came to life, tripped the enemy, and had him on the ground. Pity yourself, enemy, and say who you are. We have been watching you. You think we are dead? Spells do not work on us, and we were only pretending to be asleep so that we catch you. What a meal you are going to make. Hyena, go and prepare the cooking pot. The enemy was in such a shock that he forgot what was happening and could not talk. But only for a brief moment. As Ogila pressed the stick on his chest, the enemy pushed the hare with such force that he was tossed in the air before falling down on the rough body of the buffalo. Am I dead? Asked the hare, rather confused. No, stupid hare. You are alive and can go deep in your cooking pot. Who are you? Asked Ogila, looking for a way to trick the enemy. I am Feneke the fox. Ogila the hare searched his memory and said, You must be a fennec fox, the type we find in the desert, said the hare, edging closer to Fennec. Yes, said Feneke the fox, but do not try any trick on me anymore. I am on home ground. Well, said the hare, stopping in his tracks because he had been discovered. We hear a lot about you in the savannah. You sometimes come there to eat our hens. I don't eat hens anymore. I am your friend. I am tamed. What do you mean tamed? Asked Ogila. That is my word. Once I tamed a little monster. Feneke let out a cynical laugh. For a moment, Ogila the hare thought that Feneke had eavesdropped on their conversation with Apulapul and was trying to make fun of him for the lies he had told the monster. It means I am your friend. I want to help you. I don't believe you. You have to prove that you are a friend, said Ogila. How do I prove that, friend? You have to drink the oasis water and eat the fruits. Now, I see that you are still trying to be clever. You must have tricked people yourself. No, friend. Try another one. I don't want to sleep and then get eaten. Ogila thought he had met his match. This fox was simply smart and it would be difficult to trick him. Tell me then what you know about sleep and being eaten, he said.
Thank you for watching Till the Groke Falls in Love.
Till the Groke Falls in Love, a novel written and read by Adrian Onyando. The Fox, the Prince, and the Snake. Feneke the fox took the hare's paws and walked him around the oasis. "I'll tell you more, friend. You are in grave danger. I have seen so many animals being eaten here, and it is all because of this taming business, or lack of it." "Who eats the animals?" asked the hare, looking at the fox suspiciously. "It is the snake." "Which snake?" "The desert snake, the one who beat the little prince." Ogila the hare thought about the princes he knew. They were only two, Prince Lion and Prince Karhu. "Who is the little prince?" he asked. "Why haven't you asked about the desert snake?" Ogila the hare was puzzled, but he thought about the answer very fast. "Because I want to know about the little prince first." "See," said Feneke the fox gleefully. "Sap do not want to know her, and so she goes on eating them without any care. It is like what happens in the Masai Mara. The wild beast does not take the time to know the crocodile. All he wants is to cross the river Mara as fast as possible. And where does he end up? In the belly, or to be precise, in the body of the crocodile. The crocodile knows him, how he moves, how he tastes, and how he becomes part of his body and heart. But the wildebeest is dead. No body, no heart." "Well then, tell me about the snake," said the hare. "I'll tell you about both," said Feneke the fox, pressing the hare's paws. "The little prince is a fine boy who comes from a small planet where he lives with his rose. Well, he once visited here, fleeing sort of. You know, his rose was too demanding and he wanted some break to look for new friends. When he came here, I met him and told him how to make friends. It went like this. Sit down there, away from me. Now, move closer and closer. Sit by my side, but say nothing. One talks clearly only with the heart. Anything is important is inaudible to the ears." That is how we tamed each other. And now that we were tamed, we began to miss and to keep each other. That is important, to keep and to miss each other. And he began to miss his rose, which he had tamed in his planet and longed to go back. But his body was too heavy. So he met the snake who beat him so that he got rid of his human body. "So his spirit fled back to his planet?" "Well, he went back to his planet with a light body," said the fox. "How sad," said the hare. "Sad that the little prince was beaten and that he hadn't had the chance to meet him. But I'm happy he went back whole. At least he lost only some weight." "Yes, how sad, you say. Yet nobody says how sweet or how sad for the snake. Nobody talks of a snake. Nobody talks to a snake. If you ask me, I'll say it was wrong for the little prince to ask for a bite. Snake bite, if you see what I mean. Snakes are not there for biting and spreading poison only. Snakes may be lonely and may be looking for friends. They may want to be tamed." "Did the snake ask to be tamed?" asked the hare. "No, there are creatures that do not ask, but in their heart they want to." "In the savannah we talk," said the hare. "But do you listen?" The hare kept quiet. "Well," went on the fox, "after biting the little prince, something happened to the snake. She grew in size and became a monster, biting and spreading poison and eating the animals she poisoned. She came to my well, this oasis, and occupied it. She dug a hole at its bottom so that she could hide there as she poisoned the oasis and all the animals and the plants that use the water. Then she would pop up and eat the victims. You now know why you and your friends are in grave danger. Anyway, after watching so many animals being eaten at my well, I asked, why is she behaving this way? I went back to my past life and found the answer there. In my old days, I was only interested in eating birds and hares and other small animals. I remember the loneliness of those days. People can sometimes be lonely. You can be lonely if nobody knows you, if nobody tames you. It is only after I had been tamed by the prince that I began to enjoy life. So I thought of taming the desert snake. She is not yet quite tamed, but she's soon going to be. This is another one, thought the hare. You might be preparing me for the snake's breakfast. Are you the desert snake's friend? That is what I'm talking about. Not quite, but may soon be. You may soon be? Yes, said the fox. She used to be here every night to check on the victims and eat them up. But yesterday, I asked her to go and rest in her underground burrow, and I see that she has obeyed me. She is being tamed, but may turn up any moment to go on with her former ways. You said you'd help us, said the hare, feeling rather helpless. Yes? Ogilah the hare was happy, but he still didn't trust the fox. Why do you want to help? What would you gain again? I can see you talk like a grown-up. You ask why and about gains. Well, this is the answer. I please only myself. I am tamed. The hare looked at the fox, unbelieving. You see, I have watched you since you got into this desert. I listened to your song. Bear in the snow. What do you say about him? He's a friend. We seek to know. True. A friend you seek to know. It means you are tamed, and the bear too may be tamed. We are all tamed. That is why I want to help. So how are you going to help? Well, the snake must come back fast. The hare shuddered. But don't you worry. I'll hide you in my cave before that. When she comes, she'll ask, Feneke, where is my meal? And I'll lead her to the orchard so that she feeds on my dates, figs, and olive fruits. As she eats, the poisoned water will be draining, and the clean water from the springs will be filling the well. I'll then leave her saying, I must now go and drink. When I come back to you, we must take the clean water and spray it on the animals. They'll wake up feeling fresh. You must then flee fast, for the snake is still not yet completely tamed. Thank you, Feneke, but you must swear to me that this is not a trap. Well, you still talk like a grown-up. Swear to me, you say. Tamed people don't swear, but I swear for your sake. After Feneke had taken the oath, Ogilah the hare said, Feneke, you must come with us to the north. The desert is no good for you. Oh yes, it is. This is no longer just a wilderness for me. It is where I met the little prince and where I'll meet him again when he comes back. It is where I've met you and the other hapless animals. And it is where I'm taming the desert snake. There is too much to miss here if I leave. I'll miss you, said Ogilah. I'll miss you too, said the fox. As the fox left for his cave, Ogilah went to the forge and turned the bellows on fire. The fire came to life like 1,000 morning stars and created a great blast as was appropriate for the work at hand. He heated the metals until they turned liquid, took a hammer and then made whatever shapes and designs he wanted. He began by making a dugout canoe, decorated with the objects that he had seen at the oasis. The oasis surely is a canoe, he said. Someone will have to convince me otherwise, and a canoe is always on the lake. He made the shape of a canoe floating on a lake hidden in the sand dunes and rocky hills. The beaches had lush vegetation of dates, figs, sorghum, and wheat, all that he had seen in the oasis. Then he sculpted the figure of Feneke the fox, standing on a rock, guarding the oasis, his large ears taking almost all the space around his head, and his whiskers giving him the look of a cunning, wise animal. The denizens of the great desert looked happy as they went into parties and welcomed guests from all parts of the world, including those from the savannah. Then Ogilah made the shape of a heart and called it Feneke's heart. It was larger than his ears and body. He looked at his work and was satisfied. Laughing at Feneke's looks, he broke from the work to wait for the desert snake's coming.
Till the Groke Falls in Love, a story written and read by Adrian Onyando.
Part 1, Chapter 6, Breaking Out of the Desert Hole. Evening came and still there was no sign of the desert snake. Night fell over the desert, and the wind began to howl and the spirits to scream. Feneke the fox retired to his cave, inviting Ogila for a meal, but Ogila turned him down. He was quite anxious. Suddenly, at midnight, the oasis began to quake, and strong waves began to form on the surface. Then with a roar and a sucking sound, the desert snake shot out of the water. She had the shape of a bow, and her length covered the whole oasis. She was a moving lump of darkness.
Feneke, where is my meal?
The fox led away from the oasis, and she began to feed on the orchard. With a sucking sound, the oasis water disappeared into the underground hole, and fresh water rushed in from the hills. Feneke the fox said, "I want to drink some water."
But how I miss real food. I'm really tough.
Let me check some real food for you. I'll be back.
Don't be long.
As expected, the hare was quite scared when he had the conversation. But there was nothing he could do except to trust the fox. Swiftly, the fox brought out his gourds and filled them with the clean water. Ogila the hare helped him spray all the animals. "I am quite refreshed," said Odanga the elephant, rising up.
Whoosh,
said the hare. The fox quickly filled the gourds again and gave them to the animals. It was enough water to last them the whole length of the great desert. He also brought heaps of fresh fruits and grains and gave them to the animals.
Feneke,
Hissed the snake from the orchards.
have you found any meal?
She's not quite tamed, I told you, said the fox. Hurry. She may still want to go back to her old ways. Ogila, what is happening? Asked Prince Lion. Prince, this is Feneke the fox, a great friend to whom we owe our lives. But we have an enemy around. I'll explain later. Let's get out of here fast. Turning to the fox, he said, Feneke, this is Prince Lion. Thank you so much. You are a friend indeed. We are tamed. We hope you'll tame the desert snake. And, Ogila brought out the gift he had made from the workshop. Feneke, this is our gift to you. It is called Canoe on the Desert Lake. Like a canoe, you have helped us cross this desert sea. And your imagination is prophetic. I designed this oasis as a canoe to remind me of the future when the lakes and rivers of the desert will be restored. There is only one omission you made. I'm not seeing my little prince and the desert snake. Maybe in future. More designs for the future. Feneke shrugged his shoulders. Goodbye, he said, and disappeared in the direction of the desert snake. It was still dark, and the animals silently set off, wondering what more mishaps awaited them in the great desert. Now, tell me what happened, said Prince Lion. I can't wait any longer. Of course, Prince Lion knew what had happened. The oasis from which they had drunk 2 days ago had been poisoned, and they had to wait for an antidote, which would only be found after the snake had returned from the barrow.
With a little bit of exaggeration, Ogilah the hare narrated his tribulations after the animals went into a coma, how he befriended Feneke the fox, the story of the desert snake, and the little prince. The animals were all filled with awe about the story. Each told of their nightmares during the coma, and the nightmares had one pattern. The animals found themselves walking into a hall with fountains from which they drank plenty of water. After drinking, the doors of the hall shut, and they found they were trapped inside the poisonous bowels of a snake. However hard they tried to break out, they only sank deeper and deeper into the acidic juices of the snake. It was not until Ogilah broke the doors from outside that they scrambled out into torrential rain. It is at this stage of the nightmare that they woke up and found Feneke and Ogilah spraying them with fresh water. "Well, you have broken out of the desert hall," said the hare. "But next time, make sure you knock on the doors of the desert hall and say, 'Howdy, may we come in?' And only if the doors are opened will you first ask for water before you drink it." The animals were so happy that they had come out of the oasis alive and with provisions, thanks to the hare's wisdom. The robin chat wanted to compose a song for the hare and the fox, and the little prince whom Ogilah had said would one day return was such a lovely boy that everybody wanted to tame him or be tamed by him. Tamed and tame became such popular new words among the animals. For instance, the monkey took a juicy fig fruit and bit a huge chunk. The badger asked for a piece, and the monkey said, "Tame me fast." And the badger moved closer and closer to the monkey until he was given a piece. But Prince Lion was rather shaken by the incident. What a shame that the savannah caravan would have ended inside a snake if the hare and Feneke the fox had not rescued them. What if he went back and killed that snake and that desert fox with his taming business, taming animals inside the stomach of the snake indeed? He was deep in such sarcastic moods when the hare said, "Please, promise me one thing." "What?" said the prince, impatiently. "That we must seek to tame and be tamed," said the hare. "What?" roared the Prince Lion. "What is this taming business? Making friends? I'm not going to make friends with monsters. I'll have to crush the enemies. That is taming for me." "Cool down, Prince. You are the one who started this taming business. You wrote to Karhu and asked for his friendship." "Well, yes," said the lion, seeing the logic. "But I wrote to Karhu, not everybody." "The path is wild, Prince, and its inhabitants too, and in order for us to reach Karhu, the friend we seek to know, we must tame and be tamed on the way." "If that is what you mean, yes," said the lion, "but some may have to be tamed by this." He pointed to his powerful horse.
Directed by Johnny WordSlinger.
Till the Groke falls in love. Part 1, Chapter 7. One evening, there was a scream, very loud at first but decreasing for some time before it died away. The animals rushed to the scene, and there before them was the biggest hole that they had ever seen. "Desert locust hole," said Grandma Tatas. "Locust the king must be inside." "Someone must have fallen into it," screamed the monkey. "It is the bat and the hyena," said the robin jet who had been flying above. I saw them fall when I was flying low. I swear by my yellow wings and black hood that the love of bones is the root of all falls, said the weaver bird. By my long tail, I swear that the love of darkness is the bird's undoing, said the monkey. Shut up, ordered Prince Lion. The animals were horrified. Prince Lion went to the edge of the hole and called out, "Bat and hyena, do you hear me? Come out." The bat did not respond, but the hyena whimpered. "Desert locust, free the bat and the hyena, or else..." Silence. Prince Lion sent eagles into the hole. Presently, there was flapping of enormous wings and buzzing oars of a helicopter. The locust king, red in the eye and brown in the body, flew out. He was surrounded by a swarm of brown, black bodyguards who buzzed like a million bees around. The locusts had sharp claws that they brought out of their scabbards. At first they caused a dust storm with their wings like a million helicopters, taking off on a bare terrain. The animals fell back, some hit by the sands and others blinded by the dust. The locusts attacked the animals with their claws and wings. Locust the king grabbed 10 animals in his sharp claws and hurled them into the sand dunes. His red eyes glowed and burned the animals as though it were a furnace. The animals cried in horror. Prince Lion roared. The other animals marched behind him. For some time, the lion stared at the locust. The locust stood his ground, his red eyes glowing. Ogila the hare said, "We belong to one continent, O Locust the king," said the hare. "Make peace." The sharp ringing sound caused physical agony even to the animals with the toughest ears. Then he said, raising a dust storm, "Perogas rapus." To Prince Lion, this was not only an unpleasant sound, but a declaration of war. He charged, and it was a marvel to watch him. He spread his long body across the desert, thrust his powerful forelegs into the air, and bared his fangs as his mane shimmered in the yellow sun. Locust the king did not wait. "Perogas rapus, pagas mosaje," he shouted as he fled together with his swarm, his shadow spreading across the desert like an ominous eclipse of the sun. The swarm sailed across the sky like a great cloud until it went beyond the horizon. "See," said the lion triumphantly, "that was a real enemy. We tamed him." Ogila the hare kept silence. "What was he saying?" asked the curious squirrels, regaining their breath. "I think he was cursing us and saying he will kill us when he becomes king of the world," said Grandma Tortoise. The eagles came out of the hole, dragging the tired and badly bruised bat and hyena. "The locusts are many," said the eagles, "but we fought them and drove them away." Poor bat could only say, "And they were eating me," before he fainted. The animals nursed him back to life. The hyena was saying, "There were bones and bones there, but none to chew. The locusts were all over them, and they were all over me too." Grandma Tortoise was telling a story. "You see, this vast land, at one time, it had plenty, and all of us lived here, healthy and happy. Then Locust the king and his queen gave birth to so many children who were such eaters. Soon they ate up and destroyed everything. When they were told to plant trees, they turned a deaf ear. They were eaters and destroyers only. The worst thing that they did was to eat up and destroy the sun trees, just as other greedy kings in other parts of the great desert had done. That was when the fierce eye of the sun was cast in this direction. The land became barren and bare, and it became part of the great desert, except where there were springs and swamps. This became known as oases. People moved away to make a living out of farming elsewhere. But King Locust followed them with his swarms and ate up everything that they grew. The animals came together and fought the locusts and drove them back to the desert. There they dug holes and hid, but sometimes they come out to attack people and vegetation. King Locust was angry. He wanted to be king of the entire world, but people confined him to the desert and the holes. He did not give up, however. When he died, he passed on his spirit to his successors who bear the title Locust the King. He continues to breed more locusts to make an army. He will release them into the world one day. The swarms will eat up all the vegetation and leave the earth bare like this desert.
We shall not allow it, said Prince Lion. If he tries, we shall destroy all his holes.
Grandma, will they eat animals too? Asked the squirrels. You have seen it with the eyes of the bat and the hyena, said the grandma tortoise. A bat is blind, said the hyena. I was following him. Following a blind bat? Why were you doing that? Asked Grandma Tortoise. I was smelling bones, said the hyena. I see. What would that weaver bird swear? By my yellow wings. But did you see this hole before you disappeared in it? No, said the hyena. The locust king conceals his holes, and he feeds any animal that gets trapped in them to his young ones. Prince Lion considered the matter for a moment and then said, We have 1,000,000 buffaloes, and each one can produce a pot of acidic urine. We shall spray the desert with buffalo urine. The animals walked as fast as their legs or wings could carry them away from the holes and the desert. But even then, the animals were getting hurt by the heat, the sandstorms, and thirst. In the meantime, Ogila the hare had managed to do his first taming. Coming across some camels, he convinced them that traveling to the north was more fun than walking across the great desert. What a long caravan, said the leader of the camels. Let's join it. And the camels said, Hey, yeah. They offered their backs to the animals, and the animals gratefully rode on them. The flightless ostriches also offered their tails and ran as fast on the ground as the winged birds flew in the air. Written and narrated by Adrian Onyando. Part 1, Chapter 8. Highway on the Seabed. It was a vast blue sky that the animals saw, and then it arched and became one with the land in the horizon. At last they had reached the great sea. It was a vast expanse of very blue water mass, something that the animals had not seen before. Would it be the destination? No, it was only a stage. On its shores, the animals rested their limbs and marveled at its beauty. The robin chat took her papyrus, which was very dry now, pushed it into the water, and perched herself on it. It sailed with her so gracefully that the sisticola also came to share in the fun. Soon the water birds flocked to the reed until it started listing dangerously. My reed is not Noah's Ark, complained the robin chat. The reed capsized, and many birds found themselves in the water, splashing and fluttering, hooting and snorting. It was such a great fun for them being in the water than being on the reef. Look at me, said the duck as he outswam the goose. The goose dived and exploded onto the surface well ahead of the duck, with some small fish in its beak. The animals cheered and joined the birds, and they laughed as they had fun and in the blue water. But soon they were tired of swimming. Prince Lion said, Now we must cross the sea. The animals looked for ways of crossing the sea, but could not find any. The vastness of the sea intimidated them. What are we going to do? Asked the hippo. This is neither a river to wade through, nor a lake to swim across.
Forget about the north, said the hyena. Let's get back to the savannah. The hyena song. Oh, savannah, heart of the wild, our ancestral home where lions roam. Bones white as snow scattered on the ground pave the way where life can be found. In the heart of the wild where lions roam, we return to the savannah, our ancestral home. Bones white as snow scattered on the ground, they pave way where life can be found. Ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha. A symphony of laughter in the air, we dance with the hyenas without a care. Ha 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 ha. Under the moonlit sky, we sing and play, return to the savannah where joy finds its way. Valleys stretching wide, where spirits reside, their whispers echo in the winds that glide. Water flows from dead trees, a gift from the past, quenching the thirst of each creature amongst. Ha 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 ha. A symphony of laughter in the air, we dance with the hyenas without a care. Ha 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 ha. Under the moonlit sky, we sing and play, return to the savannah where joy finds its way. In this untamed paradise, we find our bliss. Side by side, the hyenas and the lioness. Together we thrive in this rhythmic embrace. Nature's symphony, echoing through time and space. Ha 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 ha. A symphony of laughter in the air, we dance with the hyenas without a care. Ha 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 ha. Under the moonlit sky, we sing and play, return to the savannah where joy finds its way. Oh, how happy are the hyenas as they roam. In the savannah, they have carved their own home. Ha 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 ha. With each joyful moment, the laughter will soar, returning to the savannah forevermore. Stop it, commanded Prince Lion. That is a sickening song of homesickness. Ogila the hare added a line to his magical chant. Rain or sunshine, bees or flies, bones or hyenas, sea or land. The north is our destination, chorused back the animals. Grandma Tatas came forward in confident steps and said, I know what we are going to do. The animals gathered around her, seeing her as the greatest hope for Christmas since Karhu invited them to the north. I was with Moses when he divided the sea, she said. There was silence. I also have the rod and the magic words he used. Drumbeats, trumpets, roaring, whistling, hissing, and piping filled the air. Moses was a wonderful man and a fine magician, went on Tatas. He learnt about the art of dividing the sea from the savannah. When the earth divided into many pieces which we now call continents, the animals were cut off from a huge chunk of the land by the seas. But there was no means of transport on the water. Those floating pieces of wood that men called ships had not been made. It was the art of dividing the sea that made it possible for people to spread all over the earth from the savannah. Moses cut the rod from the sun tree and used it to divide the sea for people who were going on holiday in Canaan. He was in that trade for a long time, and the Pharaoh of Egypt didn't like it. Now, when the Israelites in Egypt wanted to go on holiday and leave their work unattended, the Pharaoh refused. But Moses was stubborn in his trade. It was better seeing a whole population on holidays than obey the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh announced that Moses was the most wanted man, and whoever captured him would have the whole of River Nile. You see, Grandma Tortoise said, rummaging through her bag. After dividing the sea, Moses didn't want the road because it would tempt him to cross back to Egypt. And you can imagine what would happen if he did that. I was with him in Canaan, and I needed the road then to come back to the savannah. So I took it. It belonged to the savannah anyway. Who else had used it? Asked curious squirrels, desiring to hear more stories. The first people to use it were the northerners, the ancestors of Karhu the bear. Ofino Owino, son of Osuome, was the great ancestor who led the people to the north, and when he became old, he passed the rod to the young Vaino. Vaino stayed for a long time without marrying, and later he had problems finding a suitable bride. His people were the first to leave the savannah, and we are actually following in their steps. We are keeping to the path. And now, Grandma Tatas brought out the rod and the animals gasped in excitement. It was a smooth, shining stick with decorations, pictures of animals, and signs on it. Tatas carried the rod aloft and said some magical words, and then the sea divided. There before the animals was a highway on the seabed. The animals took onto the dry highway, heading to the north, and the waters were a wall to them on the right and on the left, and a windbreaker in front and behind. And because there was nobody pursuing them, the animals sang happy songs that echoed on the walls and all the way to the shores in front and behind. The sun behind was setting in the womb of the sea and throwing all colors of the rainbow on the animals. The animals really enjoyed the colorful sights, and with their mouths agape, you would think they were feeding on the colors. The walls were like glass panes of a vast aquarium, through which they could see the graceful dolphin playing and dancing to the sound of distant waves. The seals on some island rocks basked in the weak sunlight. The sharks hunted and ate greedily, setting the fishes on a flight as speedy as that of a flock of migrating birds. Some animals of the sea came close to the sea highway. "What a long caravan," said the whale, peering at the animals through the wall of the water. "And heading in the wrong direction." "What do you mean?" asked Prince Lion. "It is rather cold where you are going. I'm going to the south myself." "It is the cold that we want," said the lion. "We are going to visit Bear in the snow, a friend that we seek to know." "And what creature is that?" asked, pointing to the elephant with his fins. "That is the elephant, the hefty one who walks side by side with the daring rhino." The lion introduced the giraffe and the hippo too, so as to scare the whale in case he wanted to attack the animals. But the whale was only curious. "What is it that he is carrying?" he asked, edging closer to the elephant. "It is so pleasantly warm." "That, my friend, is the forge where gifts are made," said Prince Lion. "Welcome to the forge," said the hare. "We are warm-blooded animals and we also carry warm things with us." Many sea animals crowded around the forge. "Aha," said the whale. "We may need to turn the forge into a sauna where heat is made. It is so cold, isn't it?" The animals of the sea replied, "Yes, it is." "Then let's turn northwards and stay close to the forge," said the whale. Some sea animals said yes, while others said killer, yaw, ya, yep, yaw, oi, si, ken, ne, ni, da, e, iye, nin, according to their many tongues. Their words made the savannah animals have a hearty laughter, for some of their words for yes meant no in the savannah tongues, while others were just funny. All the sea animals kept the savannah party company, staying close to the forge. When the party reached dry land again, Grandmother Tatas carried her rod aloft, and the walls joined, and the sea became one again. The sea animals were disappointed, for they had to leave the warmth of the forge on the shores. How they wished they could join in the trek on the land. They looked tearfully as the savannah animals walked away. They had become such warm friends. Long time ago, Grandmother Tatas explained, the sea animals had made a pact with the sea to keep her company, and the sea in turn would provide for all their needs. If the sea left them, she would die, and if they left the sea, they too would die. No one wanted to die, so the sea was always there,
and the whales, the dolphins, and other residents always kept to the sea or very close to her. Only in a few cases would some fish land in a beach or jump out of the water, but that was when they wanted to commit suicide. "Grandma," asked the curious squirrels, "do the sea animals commit suicide?" "Yes, it is not common, but just a fish. Sometimes a fish jumps out of water and dies just like a human jumps into the water and dies." The squirrels were quite puzzled by this. The sea was so beautiful that they couldn't understand how a resident would want to leave it for good. Ogila the hare asked the grandma to give him the rod, and he studied it in his workshop. He fondled its smooth surface and marveled at the decorations. "I'm going to use some of these decorations on a gift," thought Ogila. Then he was struck by some discovery. The decorations were so similar to the ones in the Legend of the Sun. How come? Ogila studied the rod until morning, when he returned it to Grandma Tatas with quite a few questions which no one could answer. Later on, he wrote in his diary, "There is something special about Tortoise's rod. It is a mystery now, but I'll try to find it out. Tatas doesn't know much about the rod, though she tells stories about it. God, it makes me feel like calling her store. She stores so much knowledge, but doesn't know how to sort it out. Anyway, the mystery of the rod may be connected to our fate in this foreign land.